Hey, what's up, everybody? Hope everyone's having a great Friday. And Friday night means Friday Fright Review. This week's category was Monster Madness. So, as you can see, I chose Book of Monsters, which is a Dread Epic Pictures Presents. It was number 13, I believe. Yeah, number 13, and which I picked it up a couple of weeks ago and I wanted to do a review on it, so that's why I got this category for tonight. On the front here, you can see 4.5 stars, the Killer Spotlight. Definitely have to agree, I really enjoyed this movie. It reminded me a little bit of The Evil Dead, somewhat about reading from a book and sacrifice. What happens is it starts out basically when Sophie, I'm sorry, not Sophia, our main character, she's a little girl and she reads from, she likes stories, or mostly she likes the pictures of this book. Her mom reads it to her. They call it the Monster Book, and it's kind of like her bedtime stories and everything. Which she doesn't know. She'll learn years later that there's actually some truth to them. And something happens to the mother. She's attacked and by something, and we find out years later there is something to it. Uh, and when Sophie turns 18, her friends throw a party for her, and she, of course, invites the one girl she has a crush on, Jess, and everything. And Jess comes with a couple of her, I guess you could say, nemesis, like stuck up bitchy girl and a douchebag boyfriend that he hangs around with, and she hangs out with him, but she kind of feels bad for Sophie. And when they invite her to the party, uh, they get invited, and as like a joke, the one girl, Aria, the bitchy girl that shows up with Bryce and Jess, who Sophie likes for, was hoping to show up for her birthday, ordered a stripper as a joke and invites tons of other people to the party that weren't invited just to make it a wild party, just as a joke on her. And so, uh, what's interesting, I forgot to say, Nicholas Vance, he plays the father. He's a little funny part in the beginning and the end. Of course, Nicholas Vance was in Hellraiser as one of the Cenobites. So anyway, once we get to the party, someone or something shows up and does the sacrifice of something out of the book to raise these five monsters. And one of them, I like the effects, they're all practical effects and they're pretty bloody and gory. So once they're called, uh, this monster shows up, starts ripping people apart and stomping on them and killing people at the party. But they learn it's only one of five monsters once they see this book. Sophie recognizes one of the creatures and the weak spot that from one of the stories that her mom used to tell her out of the book. So these five monsters were summoned. Then there's like this one with like a bird face, and it has these little worm creatures that brings these gnomes to life. And the only thing, which was kind of silly, which they got us the idea from, if you've ever seen the movie Deathgasm, where he uses a dildo as the weapon. Well, the guy, the stripper, had a little electronic one that he used as a weapon, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of reminding me of Deathgasm. But so they got to go through and survive all these monster attacks, and there's a reason to it. And as Sophie learns that the book that she once had, that her dad had given her as a present, that he held on to it, that belonged to his mother, or her mother. And so she's looking through it, and they discover something that's going on, and a family secret about her mother. She learns there's a reason of what happened to the disappearance of her, and why and why they're coming now after Sophie. I don't really want to give too much else away, but I mean the creatures are pretty good. I like all the monsters, the dialogue, a lot of jokes in there. So it's pretty much a horror comedy as well. The one guy who helps out may or may not survive. There's just a handful of survivors who they might not even all last. You'll just have to see. Gary in there helps them out. Um, what was I saying about Gary? He was like kind of a nerdy kid who they didn't really recognize, and he ends up helping them um, to a point or all the way through. Who knows? So yeah, it's just overall a really fun, bloody movie. And they definitely set it up for a sequel, which I'm hoping they do a second chapter of the Book of Monsters. There you go, the pictures of them. You can see the different monsters: shapeshifter, gnome, Jin, and that bird-looking creature. That one there. So, and then there's the back. They gotta figure out how to survive the night. And that's pretty much it. I definitely recommend, if you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth ordering. You got some cool special features on there. So it just says, rally together, send their party crashers back to hell. And it is one hell of a party. There's a couple other things that could apply for this future topics. But yeah, so I definitely agree with that 4.5 stars. And thanks for watching. If you haven't yet, check out the video for April 4th, I believe, next Friday. Or was it the 5th? It's either the 4th or 5th, I forget right offhand. But next week's category for Fright Night Review. Let me know if you've seen this movie, what you think. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell for notifications, and I'll see you next time.